Welcome to the American Institute of Healthcare Professionals video on alien abduction syndrome and counseling. And this is obviously a very interesting topic for many individuals because it's not only in some ways a sci-fi type topic, but it is also a topic that is in mental health. It's a phenomenon that has occurred throughout history and has continued to occur in the modern era, especially since the 1950s, where our aviation technology and our space program has increased to such abilities that we're able to see far, far into the heavens, far, far into space, and to be able to understand if life exists outside of our planet, even much further outside of our solar system, outside of our galaxy. So, obviously, the idea of having some type of interaction with aliens is not just a mental issue, but it is also a very theoretical issue. So there's many types of opinions on it, aliens, whether it's real or psychosis within itself. With UFO sightings, alien abduction, and concepts of aliens or higher beings being something part of human phenomenon itself, common throughout all societies, there's a lot of ideas on what is going on. The ancients recorded many godlike entities that they experienced throughout their history, and these records have been passed on to us. In the past, it has only been seen maybe as mythology, but in the current era, there are many individuals who speculate, especially ancient alien theorists, that maybe these visions, these godlike entities, were really aliens, possibly. Within Christian circles, there are many who hold that any type of alien activity is truly demonic, alien in disguise, but truly demonic in the background. And of course, there are others who are more within academia that see it merely as myth and religious tales, or from the scientific field, psychosis within itself. But I think as these sightings and abductions have continued throughout the modern era, whether alien, demonic, or psychosis, there has been many sane and credible accounts that have emerged from our military, the Air Force, and with scientific evidence supporting the idea that other planets can contain life, and the idea that humanity is probably not alone in the vastness of the universe. It's theoretically very possible that there could be other sentient life forms in the galaxy itself. So we come across with various military and government investigations that begin to give credibility to some of these stories. And this starts to separate the alien conversation from stories of Bigfoot or vampires, of these mythological creatures. There's beginning to be a divide. Once aliens were considered to be part of that genre, now they're beginning to be separated as, let's take a closer look at this. So we might be looking at some phenomenon that occurs within alien abduction syndrome, and actually saying this could have occurred. It might not just be all completely psychosis. So there could be a possible rational explanation for it. There could be also pathology to describe it, but it also could be something that might have occurred. We can't say right now with all of the movements moving forward. So while they've yet to be empirically or universally proven, there's a lot of ideas circulating about what this phenomenon is and what is causing it itself. Just because there's a possibility that aliens and sentient beings could exist, and just because there is becoming more of a movement moving them away from sci-fi and away from other types of mythical creatures. Just because there's a possibility of it occurring doesn't mean that every single event that occurs is truly a legitimate event. And that's important to remember because there's a lot of psychological explanations for alien encounters. And I think before we can say this is a very probable occurrence, we need to look at all natural explanations. We need to exhaust all of them. Because if someone is experiencing something and it's not really there, that's a serious mental pathology, one that could be one of psychosis or even a greater extent, schizophrenia. So let's take a few looks at some possible reasons why individuals see things, whether they're aliens, demons, or ghosts or things like that. And again, we are not saying that aliens or demons do not exist. We're simply saying that every single sighting under every rock, everything in the sky, behind every tree, isn't always legitimate, but there are many individuals who have psychological issues. And some may also have minor issues, and it might have simple explanations to go with it. So if we look at cognitive distortion and memory recall, many of the things that we perceive and how events are recalled or remembered can be based upon multiple secondary influences. It can cognitively distort. So many individuals have preconceived spiritual beliefs. Maybe there's media input or an active imagination. So many spiritual individuals could have conceived ideas about demons and things of that effect, and maybe not really be seeing a demon, but it might really be something that is coming in to their mind because of these preconceived ideas, and their imagination is playing tricks on them. Same thing with many individuals who might claim to have seen Bigfoot or something like that. Many psychodynamic theories reflect how memories can stem from unconscious psychological projections due to universal human ideas. We look at Carl Jung, who theorized that UFO sightings were a cultural manifestation of archetypal symbols that reside in humanity's collective consciousness. So it's so infused into us, this UFO experience, that these sightings are projections, that they're part of a psychosis in itself. I think if we also look at trauma, many individuals who have dealt with these sightings or who have seen various other entities or mythological creatures, many of them have a trauma background in their life. And when we have trauma, it can resurface in other ways. It can resurface in dreams, sleep paralysis, and other manifestations. And this is what Freud taught. Freud taught that many terrible events in life can become repressed in our conscious mind, from our conscious mind, and reside in our subconscious. And then they can later resurface in the idea through symbols of demons, monsters, or aliens themselves. So it's something that needs to be considered. It's something that needs to be ruled out. Same thing with flashbacks from PTSD, vivid dreams, dissociation. Many who experience abduction have a trauma history, and it's something that cannot be dismissed. So whether it's sleep paralysis, psychosis, schizophrenia, hallucinations, or drug use, we need to rule out all of these things. We need to rule out, even for those who are completely and totally mentally sane, how was the visibility? Was there an anomalous perception? And by anomalous perception, I mean, was there something that was within their mind that produced a temporary hallucination or a temporary feeling with one of the senses that wasn't stemmed by any type of external stimuli. And psychology has shown that these events can happen when individuals might see an apparition or hallucinate for a particular reason itself. Now, again, I don't want to say that all events that we experience can be simply explained by these psychological explanations. There are incidents out there that baffle the mind when we hear about Air Force pilots and other stories of demonic entities with exorcist priests and so forth. So these individuals are obviously operating at a very sane level, these professionals, and I think it is something that is not for our purpose of counseling individuals with alien abduction syndrome, but more so for others to debate, well, what else could it be? Or is there some legitimacy to some of these things? But I don't think we can give a free pass to everyone when there are so many psychological pathologies with psychosis and schizophrenia that exist out there, and just also an active mindset with individuals who have suffered from trauma or who have preconceived notions themselves. So within alien abduction syndrome, one of the things that we see with clients who might come in with one of these stories is there is a theme, a storyline that goes through, which is common amongst all. First is the capture. The capture event can occur in an isolated area or from one's own bed. Many have experienced something occurring while they were sleeping. The experience, whether real or not, though, has profound effects on the person. That's what we're most concerned with as mental health professionals. The experience itself. What effect does it have on the individual? Second, there is a story of experimentation and communication. And this is where the abductees relate experimentation or even sexual relations. Many also relate a particular communication. And some of these communications lead to messages that range in the degree of maybe mild to extremely outlandish to very ordinary messages. And we see many individuals claim to telepathically speak from a possession of an alien. And, well, that's another story altogether when we start seeing these types of individuals prey upon others for fortune, for notoriety, or maybe psychosis itself. So as a mental health professional, I think when we start seeing certain messages being relayed, that's a red flag. I really would use a little bit of discernment there. The third part is the tour, return, and the loss of time that is experienced with many of these individuals. Many relate a tour of the vessel, and all upon return express some type of disorientation at first, and also a universal experience of a loss of time. The time that they were gone makes no sense of how they lost 3 or 4 hours, 12 hours. Where did that time go? And that seems to be a common symptom as well. And then, especially concerning our topic of helping individuals with alien abduction syndrome, we are looking at trauma and adjustment that the individual faces. Many return with a sense of dread. Some have anxiety and fear. But yet, there's also others who return on the opposite side of the coin, where they have a lot of hope. So regardless, a post-adjustment period is necessary to understand the experience. And again, this relates to alien abduction, but it can also relate to demonic influences, those who claim to see apparitions of saints or the Virgin Mary. They need to be discerned very, very carefully to see if this is something that is worthy of legitimate metaphysical value, or if we're going down a rabbit hole into Alice in Wonderland, where severe psychosis is existing in these cases. So the trauma of abduction experience, whether it's demonic, whether it's alien, whether it's just simply psychosis, as we said, has real effects regardless. And again, as counselors, that's what we're most concerned with, are the real effects of what's going on. These individuals fear, they have dread, they have anxiety. Many have insomnia and sleep disturbances, and many possess PTSD type symptoms that have hypervigilance. They're very scared at night when they're going to bed or going to certain places because of the trauma that occurred or that was perceived. This leads to dissociation, flashbacks, nightmares. Some individuals will become depressed and socially withdraw due to these fears. Also, there's a number that are very frustrated for not being believed, or many as being labeled as being crazy in itself. So these are some of the experiences of individuals who are experiencing this trauma. And again, it's not for us really to determine whether it was real or perceived. We're more concerned right now with, as counselors, the real effects of what occurred. And what occurred is the great mystery. But as counselors, what we're looking at is real empirical trauma in itself. So important ways to help counseling those through AAS, or alien abduction syndrome in itself. What we want to do is avoid personal religious bias or psychological bias to try to disprove that this occurred. This can only cause more trauma for an individual who is speaking about what occurred to them. We don't want to judge or label them. Instead, we want to focus, as I've been trying to emphasize, on the realness of the trauma itself. We want to work through all psychological issues regarding the past trauma. We want to discuss if mental illness or other psychosis issues existed in the past, or if they are present. And if they are present, through empathetic listening, through the unconditional positive regard we have for our client, through the therapeutic relationship, we want to help the client understand that maybe these things have a psychotic or mental issue behind them that need to be addressed. And we want the individual to come to that conclusion by going through this, especially if we really begin to see signs that this isn't just something that was metaphysical or something that was an external event completely that is beyond all natural explanations. We begin to start to see true red flags for mental health. We don't want to ignore those, but we want to help heal and help the individual through the empathetic relationship come to these conclusions. And this is where, if the person truly appears sane and there's no reason that this individual should have experienced this due to natural explanations, that we have to allow them to come to their own conclusions, not ours. Our job is to focus and help the client heal and recover from the trauma and to make sense of the experience going forward. And the conclusions that they come with, if we know there's no psychosis behind it, we should leave that to the client to interpret for their own personal life. In terms of treatment, if licensed and not pastoral in nature, if you are a licensed counselor, treating PTSD is important. Utilization of EDMR and exposure therapies, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, to help reframe and understand. And of course, as I emphasized a little bit earlier, using Rogerian techniques. That's where that empathy comes in, that unconditional positive regard, to help the person express their trauma and feelings and find meaning. Some individuals need spirituality, and that's a subject that can be broached if the person is spiritual, has expressed it. So finding security, whether it's in some type of world meaning, or if it's in a higher authority that's spiritual, to give them a source of comfort, a source of security that the universe isn't completely chaotic, that there is good in the world that is protecting them. I think finding that security, that anchor after these types of experiences is important and a way to help individuals heal. Also, leading clients to potential support groups or peers with similar experiences. And this is common in all of mental health. When individuals are ready, not forced into, but when they're ready to meet with others and share stories, there can be some commonality and there can be some healing itself. Again, the healing process is not about the counselor necessarily defining what the experience was or trying to shape it to the counselor's belief system. It's instead important for the client to understand it and how to process it in a healthy way. So those are some things to consider when counseling individuals through this. Obviously, this video is not so much about whether aliens exist or not, or speculate on theories of what aliens could be. Obviously, it is more of a professional mental health approach of looking at first all of the psychological or natural explanations before even contemplating other things. The key is to help clients heal from this particular experience, to help the trauma heal, not so much what it was about within itself. We are AIHCP. We offer a variety of behavioral health certifications. Our link is below. Our phone number is 330-652-7776, and our email is info@aihcp.org. I'd like to thank you for listening and have a good day.